It's JoJo time. He's gonna he's gonna JoJo all over those guys. Now we we got a cover of Jonathan. That looks cool. It looks pretty nice. Look at that nose. Now that is what you call a nose. That is a 3D nose right there. Like, god damn. This is chapter 22. Make fear yours. I kind of forgot to mention that, but anyways, Jonathan's looking really hot. He's got the British flag on his left arm. That looks cool. No Joestar birthmark. I know that hasn't been introduced as a concept yet, but there isn't one there. But like, look at that. Look at that vertical line on his cheek. Look at that. That in the nose and like the eyes, it all just adds up to like a 3D face. It looks super awesome. He's got some sort of headband thingy on. It's like an ornamental headband. Looks good. Yeah, no, he looks great. He's got some sort of, looks like tank top on, like basketball tank top or something. Yeah, so they're in the tunnel. And Jack the Ripper has come out of the horse, and Jonathan, he's wearing a bow tie now. His outfit is slightly different. It's kind of like what he was wearing during Youth with Dio, except he has the hat on now. But he's definitely wasn't wearing the bow tie last chapter. And it totally looks like he's wearing a completely different outfit, actually. So, I guess Jonathan was so freaked out by this Jack the Ripper guy that he completely changed clothes. I mean, hey, I would be right there with him if it were me. But he mentions an odor of standing water, and it's apparently like a zombie. He's immortal if he keeps eating humans, and so I guess zombies smell like standing water, which, I mean, it's a nice little detail. I know later they mention the sound of hormone is like bullets hitting steel or something, which is also kind of cool. I kind of like that. It's like, kind of like gives you an idea of like other senses, how things are perceived with the other senses than just sight. It's kind of cool. Because, like, you only directly get to see, you only get to, like, see the story. You can like, imagine how things sound. But it's kind of cool to have, like, an indicator that's still pretty vague. So there's still, you get a sense of direction, but there's still room to, like, wonder and imagine. But, I guess, Jack the Ripper is only a zombie. He isn't a vampire. Which, I guess, would mean that, zombies, if they get enough nutrition, will look pretty similar to vampires. So that's probably what Wang Chung is, just a zombie that's, like, fed really well. But, yeah. We see his scalpel. It looks a little different. It looks like he like slightly redesigned it a bit. Like the spikes are a little more spiky. Yeah, it looks a little more square. But yeah, he cuts the air with his knife, and Speedwagon's talking about, oh, wow, he cut that air with a knife. What incredible power. It's like, so I guess it's implying that he's strong enough to cut the air. Which is, a very weird flex, but, anyways. Jack's saying, like rats stuck in a trap, drowning in the water. I'll turn your faces ghastly white, then savor the warmth of your blood. And then he does this thing, he like cuts his finger off, and then he shoves his knife through his face. And it looks badass, honestly. Like, look at that. That looks great. But yes, Zappelli is figuring that he must have been a very terrible person when he was still human, which, as far as we know, that's very much true. But, Zappelli calls this battle lesson number 1, that you must put yourself in the enemy's place and consider what they would do. And Speedwagon's like, what? Who would want to put themselves in the place of that beast? Spelly's like, oh, shut up. And mentions that, okay, if I were him, I would block the entrance to the tunnel. That way we couldn't get out when the sun rises. And it's like, Zappelli, dude, you just gave the enemy a massive hint. He could have heard you. And sure enough, Jack the Ripper picks up the entire carriage and throws it at, like, I think it's like the roof, and it causes like a bunch of rocks to come down, sealing the exit. But like, yeah, we get this partial double page spread, that would look cool if this binding thing didn't mess up. Like, seriously, how does that even happen? Did maybe they like cut the left page off, or maybe the right page off just a little shorter than it otherwise would have been, and that's how that works. I don't know, but yeah, they run away from the carriage, and Zappelli has his wine. He's got this cool pose with his arms crossed. He's got the wine bottle and the chalice. It looks really great. And Jack the Ripper, he's still got the knife in, and this is kind of a disturbing thing. So just skip to the time if you're squeamish about gore. But anyways, he's got like these buds on his body, and they erupt these medical scalpels. It looks really creepy, but honestly really cool. Like, look at that. I feel like in another life, Araki could have been like a horror illustrator. I feel like he would have done pretty well at that. But anyways, for those of you just coming back, basically what happened is Jack the Ripper hit a bunch of scalpels in his body, and he like flexed his muscles so they would come out. So yeah, he does that, and Zappelli approaches him, and he does this thing where he like shoots them all out of his body everywhere. And Jonathan Speedwagon hide behind this wall. That's just kind of conveniently there. But like the force of the knives is so strong that they break the wall. And Speedwagon gets hit, so that kind of sucks. But what? This is a weird panel. It's like it looks like their legs are underwater. That's weird. There shouldn't be any water in there. Oh well. So Zappelli goes and he does his signature attack, the Hamon Cutter. Or he drinks some wine and he spits it out, and like Hamon makes it all ripply. Which is just kind of a cool move. It's kind of the first time we get to see Hamon used to affect other properties and like as a weapon. Like that's pretty cool. I feel like there's a pretty creative use of Hamon right there. And his Hamon cutters cut his knives. And so he mentions that he used the Hamon breathing method to like put pressure on the wine. He shot it out from between his teeth. Which is And then Zappelli's like, JoJo, this is battle lesson number 2. You know, fleas, the tiny bugs that come and bite us giant, intelligent humans? Do you think you could call those brave, courageous beings? No, you couldn't. So, what is courage? Courage is knowing fear and making that fear your own. And, I really love this scene. Probably, like, top 5 Phantom Blood scenes for me. It's really good. And it ties back into that courage theming that's been present throughout the whole story. And, like, we go back to, like, chapter 1. It was introduced there with, like, Jonathan beating up the bullies and the bullies clapping back, and how he lost that, but he still had the courage to fight, even though he would lose. So in a sense, in that first chapter, he was making that fear his own by not letting the fear stand in the way of fighting for what he believed was right. So I like that. I think that's really good. But I'm going to take a moment to just say, fuck fleas. Fuck them. They are a scourge on humanity. God, they don't deserve life. They are terrible. They will ruin your life. Do not, you see a flea, fucking nuke that fucker. They do not deserve to exist. Fuck fleas. But anyways, unhinged rant over. Yeah, so, Zappelli is like, fear is letting your breathing go awry. You must never let your breathing go away. The Hamon breathing method is a product of courage. And, yeah, he keeps going on courage, like human anthems are songs of courage. And that humanity's greatness is born from that courage. So, yeah, I like how Zappelli's kind of using this moment with Jack the Ripper to, like, teach Jonathan about courage and Hamon and stuff. I think that's really good. Also, his face, that's a face, all right. Then he kicks Jack the Ripper, and we get this really cool panel of, like, the left side of his face melted. It looks awesome. And, Zappelli's like, JoJo, you finish him off. You'll never stand a chance against Dio if you can't beat him. And, Speedwagon mentions, oh, holy shit, that guy didn't drop a single drop of wine. Man, he's the real deal. And, yeah, that's the chapter. That's the first half of Phantom Blood right there. Alright, so, let's talk about the chapter first. I kind of like we're getting back into the combat a little bit. The combat in Youth with Dio was just, I did not like it, but, like, the combat here is a little better. It's a little better. We got to see some cool attacks. We got to see Zappelli in action. That's always nice. It's always nice. The courage stuff was really good. I loved that. And, yeah, I got some good gore with Jack the Ripper. And, yeah, to all you gore fans out there, I'm pleased to announce there will be more from where that came from. So, yeah. Now, we are halfway through this story, which is kind of weird to think about in some ways. Also not, because, like, this is the shortest part of JoJo. It's only 44 chapters. And, yeah, there's really not a whole lot of story. It's very compact, really. But I feel like most of, like, the first half is just, like, exposition. Just, like, telling you, oh, hey, these are your characters. Here's why you like this guy. Here's why you hate this guy. And, yeah, it shows, like, how the bad guy gets his main source of power and why he's evil and how he's able to, like, do a lot of damage with that. And then we get the proper introduction to the antithesis to that power, Hamon. And, yeah, I really just feel like most of this first half of the story is just exposition that, in a lot of respects, the real story kind of starts, like, right around here. I feel like that's a weird opinion, though, especially considering there is still a lot of, like, good stuff in the first third, especially, and how a lot of that doesn't really feel like exposition. It feels like a whole-ass story on its own, which is really cool. I like how you could realistically have ended part one, like, shortly after Youth with Dio, and it still would have been a mostly complete story. I think that part's cool. I really like how even just within these 22 chapters, you can really tell how much Araki is changing his art, how much he's implementing new things, and a lot of the time it really feels like it's for the best. Like the faces are looking they look a lot less flat than they did at the start of the part. They look a lot more 3D, like you can imagine them in a 3D space a lot easier. And yeah, like, people always talk about Araki and his ever-changing art style, and they mostly look to, like, Part 4, Part 7 for, like, the big changes, and I'm not arguing that those aren't, like, drastic changes at all. They definitely are, but, like, you can see, like, pretty much throughout most of his work that he really does a lot different. He really likes to experiment sometimes with his art and how he draws and how he can make it look more realistic, because, like, autonomy is a really big thing for Araki. He likes to draw his humans atomically correct. He has experimented with like more cartoony body types in, like, around, like, Part 4 and 5. But his main thing, especially in the later parts, is going for anatomical correctness, which, it's cool. It's really cool. I like it. I think his art looks really good that way. But yeah, I really like doing this slow, because I can, like, slowly appreciate all the tiny little differences Araki makes to his art. And it's really, really cool to witness. And, like, especially reading black and white, because I feel like, especially with Part 1, the colored scans really obscure a lot of the fine detail. And Part 1 is especially a bad case, because, like, the Part 1 coloring, it just, look at that, like, ugh, that barely even looks appealing. Like, I feel like the best colored parts are probably, like, 4 through 6. Like, Part 7 beginning is kind of bad, but it gets better. The first, like, half or so of Part 8's also pretty nice, but yeah, I don't know what they did with, like, the coloring of Part 1. If like, the art of Part 1 was just difficult for them to manage with color, and, like, the art of the later parts was better. I don't know if that plays into it. I know Part 2's coloring kind of has similar problems, although, in my opinion, Part 2's coloring is a lot more clear and less detail obscuring than Part 1's. But, yeah, that's the first half of Part 1. We're gonna be getting into the second half. And, yeah, it really is something. Yeah. Bye.